Hi class, this is a tutorial for you leading up to your final project. It's been posted to the LEO under final exam, so it's all the way down here on the left. All the instructions are here, and it's a little mock-up at the bottom. But I figure I will do this video because we haven't talked a lot about web per se, and you will be creating for the final project a web page mock-up and 2 web banners. Let me first off by start by saying that this project is not going to be heavily weighted with design, and it's more built on what you have already designed in your logo and poster and book cover and applying it to the web page. So in the instructions, I basically start off by explaining everything. It's very important that you follow, watch this video all the way through and follow the directions. You have to create a mock-up. On your first project, many of you did a really good job with your diagrams, but in your second project, some of you did not do sketches, or maybe you didn't turn it in. It's very important that you do a sketch. So you're going to be creating a web page, and you'll be creating web banners, which would be this element right here and this element right here inside of an Illustrator file. So you have to create 3 elements and create them separately at the beginning, and then import the banners into the web page. So you're creating one Illustrator file, and it's all here, but you're importing a 728 by 90 pixel banner as a PNG file into that Illustrator file, and you're exporting 300 by 250 banner and putting it into the Illustrator file. So I'll go over here are all the specs for each element, and so now we'll go over how you're going to create this. Okay, so let me first start by going over something that I see happening a couple times. People not turning their Pantone files into the correct file formats. And I explained this before you guys did the book cover, and some students still didn't convert their logos into CMYK. So I'll do that again, but for this project, for the final project, you're going to be creating RGB. So it's very critical that you do. So I'm starting off the way you probably started off, which is your logo was in a Pantone color. And you can tell by, if you select your swatches or the color, under window color, okay, that palette will come up. All you have to do is select with the direct selection tool, click the black, and it will show you that the color that you have right now is Pantone. So for those of you who had this issue, I screenshot your file and showed you where the Pantone color was. So in this case, I have a Pantone black and I have a Pantone red. So for the book cover and the poster, what you should have done is, and I explained this in the video, is change it to CMYK, and then you will see the 4-color process here. If you did part of it and you didn't do the other part, what will happen is that you have 5 colors. You have a 4-color over here, and a Pantone is an extra color. So if you went to a printer to print a job like this, you would actually be paying for 5 colors, which you don't want to do. So I have to change my Pantone to CMYK. Now this is just for the poster and just for the book cover. Would be CMYK. In this instance, for the final, you need this file to be RGB. So 2 things you have to do is you have to go to the File menu and change the document mode to RGB. Now that doesn't change your file to RGB because the elements themselves are still CMYK. So you have to go in and change this to RGB. And you see the color sliders here. Don't mess with the sliders because it'll change your color. And change this, that's already RGB, and that's already RGB. So the black was able to be changed, but the color didn't. So you just click with this one. Now I also have a line here. Okay, I have one little line. Okay, you got to make sure it's also RGB, and it is. So that was a gray color, so it's now RGB. Okay, so what I need to do now is save my file as a different format. So I don't want to take away my Pantones. So I want to save my logo as RGB. So always get into the habit of saving your logos in different formats. Okay, so you can have an RGB version, you can have a Pantone version, and you can have a CMYK version. Okay, so I have my logo set, and that's fine. I also downloaded an image that I can use on the web page, because you have to have an image on the web page. I downloaded it from Creative Commons. Again, in your statements, give credit to where you've gotten the image from. Don't just download it for Google and not, you use Creative Commons, and you can attribute the photos where you got it. Okay, so I also have, the way my thing is set up right now, I have my web page folder, I have my banners folder, and my book cover was, okay, you have your book cover that's in here. All you need for the book cover is just the front of the book. So the only thing I'll be needing for the final project will just be this right here. Okay, I'm not gonna need the spine, I'm not gonna need the back. I'll just need the front of the book to make the banners. Now my book itself doesn't have a lot of design to it, because I just kind of put it together really quickly. But yours, many of you had like patterns and color schemes and stuff. So you want to take those patterns and color schemes into your other projects. So I'll just create I'll just create some quick shapes on here. So let's just say I had, of course this is a really bad design. Okay. Alright, so let's say I had some shapes, scattered throughout my book. So I just have some kind of graphical element, that I can use on the other elements. Okay, so the only thing I'll need is really the front of this book. Okay, so if you look at the specs, we'll start with the web page first. So the web page should be 960 by 900, and you can have any height, but for this project we'll leave it as 900. But if you're doing a mock-up for a web page, generally your pages will probably be longer than 900. We're using RGB only for the web page, and you must have you must have your mock-up, you must have your logo included. Okay, you must have an image for the home page, some text as a header and body, as well as 5 navigation links. Okay, so we have all the elements, we just don't have these 2 banners yet. So we'll build the web page, and then we'll go in, we'll create the banner separately, a separate Illustrator file, and then import them into the Illustrator file. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you create a new file. I'm gonna close some of these. Just move some of these around so I have a little bit more space to work with. Here. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to create a new file. So remember, we're creating RGB. So the first thing you want to do is change your color mode to RGB. Change your units to pixels. Okay, you want it to be landscape. So the width is 960, and the height we're working with is 900. It doesn't really matter because this is a mock-up, but if you were going to do graphics for the web, definitely when we do the banners, we'll change to 72 dpi. 300 is fine, but let's make it 72. And we're going to call this web page up here. We need 1 artboard. And if you feel comfortable doing this project with separate artboards, it's fine. You can create 3 artboards and create separate files. If you want to create 3 separate Illustrator files, it really doesn't matter, because it'll be easy to do either way. Okay, so here's my web page. It's RGB. Okay, and so the first thing I need to do is to bring that logo in to my web page. So here's my logo. It's RGB, so I'll just, copy everything, and I'll bring it in here. I'm not going to position everything perfectly just yet till I have everything. Now, one thing you want to make sure is if you're scaling, and some of you had this problem too, when you're scaling your logo, there are different ways to do it. You can just hold down the edge. Oh, I missed. It's a good procedure to group everything. Command G or Apple or Control G or Apple G and paste it in. So make sure you hold one of these little blue areas down to move it. So when you're scaling, you can use this by holding down the Shift key with the selection tool on. You can scale it like this. I don't always like that way. I just kind of like to go here by the scale tool. But just to make sure you have scale corners and strokes. Because if you don't have that, what happens is when you reduce it, the strokes won't reduce proportionately. So let's say I want to move this down about 60%. I'm going to scale it down about 60. That looks fine for now. You can always adjust that after. So my logo is going to go somewhere in the corner. So I'm going to keep always looking at my mock-up to make sure I have everything. So I know I need that image in there. I need some navigation going around. So I'm going to bring the image in. So here's my image. And I'm going to drag it in. You could also have done, file, place, same difference. Now, it's important when you bring an image in for this project, embed the image. Okay, make sure it's embedded. Otherwise, if you send me an Illustrator file and it's not embedded, what's going to happen is I'm going to get a message that says a linked file is missing. So make sure and embed the image in there. You can always scale it down by holding down the Shift key and then dragging, or if you want to change, crop it, we can do a, I'll show you how to do that. We will do a clipping mask. I'll show you guys how to do clipping masks. So you can do a clipping mask. Okay, so that's the first thing. And then we need to have our navigation that's going around. So a couple ways you can do the navigation is that, you can create, again, based on your design, you might just want to, have some element that's in there at first. And then you need to have, some text. I'm going to use a text tool to draw some text. Try to keep your fonts similar to what you used, for your different designs. So don't, if you're using something, really crazy, don't, or very standard, don't go crazy with like changing up the font. But this is a web page, so if you use a very grungy type, it's a logo, that probably wouldn't work as a good navigation element. So you can, hold down the Option key and drag and shift and drag to, to keep them on the same line as you copy. And just go in and double click and change it to the next. So what I'm doing is I'm clicking, holding down the Shift key and the Option key and dragging at the same time. And I'm duplicating what's on there. So services, products. So I have to do this video in a series of videos to keep it under 15 minutes so I can upload to YouTube. So I'll come back with another video and continue this shortly.